You absolutely love to hear this. After its first season with the St. Louis Blues, we get an outlook on Dylan Holloway's next contract with the Blues. But not only that, an OHL defenseman, a prospect of the St. Louis Blues, speaks out on camp going into next season and how he has big aspirations for next year. We're going to break down all this, including Holloway's next contract, this rookie, and so much more on this episode. You're not going to want to miss that. Before we get into that, Blues fans, we're trying to reach our goal of 3,500 subscribers. You guys have been absolutely killing it. We can't thank you enough. So if you haven't hit that sub button, go down and hit it. It's completely free. And in return, we'll give you updates from all around the Blues, not only this offseason, but going into next year. But Darius, with that, let's just hop straight into the first topic. And before we get into the whole Holloway contract, there is one player in particular, and there's a full article written on this. Go check it out. It will be pinned in the description down below, where we do see Quinton Burns, an OHL defenseman, third-round pick for the St. Louis Blues, is looking to have a big year going into camp. Now, Burns, 49 points last season with Kingston in 66 games, 8 goals. What is your initial thoughts on this prospect, who is a bit of a shutdown defenseman, but quietly looking like a player that can make a big impact within this Blues organization?
The Blues right now have an embarrassment of riches in terms of shutdown defensemen, offensive defensemen, like coming through the system. Of course, we've talked a lot about how this team wanted to add on defense for the main roster, for the actual St. Louis Blues roster heading into the season. But man, oh man, in terms of prospects, they have an embarrassment of riches. And this is just another one in Burns, who plays for the Kingston Frontenacs in the OHL. And he had a pretty good season last season, and so did the Kingston Frontenacs, and it was in part because of him. And of course, he can chip in for goals here and there. There's a lot of defensive defensemen, or shutdown defensemen, whatever we want to call it in that case, that can't put up any points, or you might see every year they're putting up maybe 10 points or something like that. That's fine. They're chipping in here and there, but this guy can actually help out offensively as well. He doesn't shy away from that side of the game. He had 50 points in 66 games last year. And the other thing to notice is he's 6'2", and he actually can make the jump this year. He's 20 years old. He's, done his time in junior hockey, not to make it sound like he's doing his time in prison or anything like that, but he's done his time in junior hockey. He should be moving on to probably the AHL level, so he's going to continue his development, which is very exciting. And again, Springfield should be a very good team. The St. Louis Blues are going to be a very good team this year, and heading into the future, they have so many great young pieces that are going to continue to develop that can at some point help out the main roster. And not only that, you have a couple of guys that kind of do the same thing coming up through the system. So when it comes time to it, if you have a position of need, you can trade one of these guys as an asset to then go out and get whatever position of need you need to fill. So I think that Doug Armstrong set up, first of all, this organization beautifully with a lot of this stuff. And it's not just him, it's the scouting staff, of course, and by way of this, but setting up Alex Steen really, really well to take over, because obviously he's been shadowing him. So the organization, I think, is in a great spot with guys like this, and how hungry he is too, to come into camp and to make an impact. I don't think he's going to make the NHL, but he's going to continue his development, which is a really good sign for the Blues.
And I think the big thing is this Blues AHL team is really going to have a boatload of prospects coming in over the next season too, and it's going to get very competitive. It's going to be a really fun team to watch, and generally I think they can win the Calder Cup with this youth movement coming through and looking to join the NHL team at some point. We do get a little breakdown on Burns' thoughts going in. He spoke out on this. You can read through it. He said, "Junior at 16 years old, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the big settings, and I can't wait to get up there." And this was speaking on going into his third camp with the Blues. But what's your guys' thoughts on Burns? What's your thoughts on all these prospects that this Blues organization has kind of built up? Carbonneau being recently, Dvorsky looking to make the jump soon. There's so many names within the system, and it's really exciting for the future of this Blues team. But that goes straight into the second thing today, where we touched on a lot of defense just then. But looking at the forward group, they do have a good few people locked up. Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, Booch. There's a lot of guys here, but there's one player in particular that can sign an extension and will be an RFA after next season, and that is Dylan Holloway. Now, Dylan Holloway came in on an offer sheet, probably looking like one of the most sneaky moves we've seen Doug Armstrong make, coming in his first season, 63 points, 26 goals. Yes, being injured during the playoffs, and if he wasn't, this is a Blues team that would have probably made the second round, third round, maybe even the finals. But with Dylan Holloway comes a big contract. Let's be honest here. With Holloway from Scotia Stats, shout out to them as well. Their projections have been pretty spot on. They have Holloway's extension projected on a 6-year, $8.7 million deal. Now, looking at this, we'll get into how this seems like a lot, but it's really not. But what is your thoughts on Holloway looking at and with projections kind of keeping him around the $8 million range?
Well, if you look around the league, I want to bring up another, not very comparable, I guess, in terms of the actual player and how they play. But if you look at Matthew Nyes and what he just got in 7.5 for 6 years, I think this makes sense for Dylan Holloway because Dylan Holloway is probably going to put up more points than a guy like Matthew Nyes. Now, Nyes is getting paid for different things in different aspects of the game. But think about it. This is a very young player who's going to be, a point a game player. I think he's going to take another step again this year. He's gone to a Stanley Cup final. He has that experience with the Edmonton Oilers. He was good in that Stanley Cup final. A lot of people forget that he was actually putting up points while Connor McDavid wasn't in the last couple games in that series. So he was really good there. So he's going to get paid, and he's going to get paid a lot. And I think we have to start changing our thinking on what an $8 million or a $9 million player is, because it is going to change in front of our very eyes over the course of the next 2 seasons, because the salary cap is going up about $10 million every summer. So guys who, we're $8 million player. Like, it's just going to shift all across the board. You're going to see depth players, instead of making under $1 million, they're going to start making $2 or $3 million, right? And that's just the way it's going to be. Think about the NBA. They're going to start getting into that stratosphere of cap hits and stuff like that. Not, anytime soon, but it's going to get to that point at some point. But Dylan Holloway for like $8 to $9 million on a long-term contract, like a 6 or 7 year deal, I think will age beautifully because of his age as well. You're going to get him into obviously UFA status, but it's going to be interesting to see if he's interested in a long-term deal, because I think a lot of players are realizing right now, if I sign for 3 or 4 years, I can cash in again when I'm in my prime and make a lot more, because the cap's going to be going up significant amounts every single year. So I think that actually does make a lot of sense, Mark. I don't know how you feel about it, but I would be okay giving him that dollar amount, because as time goes on, especially if it's a longer-term deal, it's going to age beautifully, and you're going to be able to add more pieces to the team anyway.
Because, I think that's the biggest thing. When looking at Holloway, we've seen the Blues share that's actually leading the team in game-winning goals. He was outstanding, better than a lot of people, including us, expected joining this Blues team. But with the cap going up, it's going to continue jumping from 95 to 104 to 113. It's going to continue going up every single year from now on. I could see the Blues, Doug Armstrong, and Steen at that point, going in and saying, hey, we want to keep you on the same page as everyone else. Kyrou Thomas making the exact same. Maybe bringing him on this, having your 3-headed monster making the exact 8.1. With the cap going up, I think a big thing a lot of people are looking at is, hey, $8 million seems like a lot. Sidney Crosby signed for 6.7 back in the day, or whatever it was, 8.7. The thing with this is, with the cap going up, we're going to have to start looking at contracts as percentages more so against the cap with it rising. So it's going to get interesting. I do like Holloway at the $8 million range. If you can get him on a long-term deal, that will be beautifully. But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? Within this lineup, would you sign Dylan Holloway to another $8 million contract? Would you get him in to kind of pair him with Kyrou and Thomas as the future of the team, as they already look like this with Snuggerud and everyone else, of course? What's your thoughts on this? Go down and leave a comment down below. While down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.